So my topic was wind turbines. So the background and history, there's actually a lot more than I thought there was going to be. So that was pretty neat. So to start out, there's 140,000 to 328,000 birds that are killed every single year in collisions with the turbine's blades and the towers. So not just, the blades that we would immediately think of. The risk is highest at night when the birds are, or when the towers are cloaked in darkness, as NBC quotes. Also, the wind turbines is going to be referred to in the PowerPoint as WT, just so you're aware of that. So wind turbines are the most threatening form of green energy because of the bird deaths that occur. It's also one of the most rapidly expanding energy industries. There are more than 49,000 individual wind turbines, not just the farms, but individual wind turbines that exist across 39 different states. There are currently radar and GPS detection systems. So these radar and GPSs detect the incoming flocks of birds, and they turn off the turbines just in time for the birds to fly through the area. In California's Tehachapi Mountains, there is a wind developer by the name of Tara Jen, and she has tailored the radar system and its bird detection system to protect the California condor specifically. Most condors are tagged with GPS sensors, and the wind farm sets up a system that shuts down the turbines when a condor is coming into the area within 2 miles of the wind farm. And so, you've got this California condor coming in, and within 3 miles of the radar system, it probably won't detect it. But once it gets into 2, it'll kind of show up on the screen. And by that point, it'll turn off the system, the wind turbines. And all of that happens within about 2 minutes. There is a Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which states that it's illegal to kill any bird protected by this act, even if the death is incidental, meaning occurring unintentionally, such as wind turbines. There's also a Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act that recommends to avoid eagle deaths specifically. Companies should seriously consider where they site their developments, so the wind turbine sightings that I had mentioned, and that they should also limit their turbine's impact by using techniques like the radar and GPS to detect the incoming birds. However, it is unclear as to whether or not these systems actually work, if they actually do prevent bird deaths. So if we hear the story of David Newstead, he is a field biologist of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Quoting him, he had a flock of 15 American white pelicans that caught his eye as they were flying toward the Penasco wind farm. So there was a pelican at the flock's tail end, and he was swiped by a massive turbine blade, and again, quoting him, literally erased from the air. So this farm, this Penasco farm, has this radar system and this GPS detection, but evidently it didn't work. I don't know if, nobody was working at the right time, or there was a malfunction with the system or something like that, but something went wrong and it didn't actually prevent a bird death. I mean, most times you can't prevent 100% of everything that you want to prevent, but it was just crazy because he said it was literally erased from the air. And so another thing to look at is the regional bird deaths per turbine per year. And so it's just a rough estimate, or not a rough estimate, rough estimate, average. So in the California region of the US, there is 7.85 bird deaths per turbine per year. In the East Coast, or the East region of the US, there's 6.86 bird deaths per turbine per year. In the West, there's 4.72 bird deaths per turbine per year. And in the Great Plains, there's 2.92 bird deaths per turbine per year. And so if you think about that, there's 4 clear turbines in this picture here in the background. And so if you take, the 4 of those times 7, say it's in the California area, that's 28, roughly, math. I don't know. I haven't done it in a while. that's 28 per like birds just in that picture, and that's just crazy. And so why are wind turbines an issue exactly? When you hear the word wind turbine, you normally think of, the good stuff about it. So it's clean energy and it's doing good. And so quoting BBC, it's kind of a long quote here. So one of the most rapidly increasing forms of clean energy can also have deadly consequences for wildlife. Wind turbines, a technology that many view as a necessary component in the fight against climate change, can kill airborne animals, leaving lasting implications throughout the food chain. So when you hear that, again, we know that wind turbines do good. They clean energy and fight against climate change. But they can kill airborne animals, leaving lasting implications through the food chain. You like earlier, you take down a raptor, or I'll mention that here. You take down a raptor because of, or the wind turbine takes down a raptor, and it just eliminates a whole section of the food chain, which will have lasting impacts. It's just absolutely insane to think about. And so when you think about that, are we supposed to choose between clean energy and bird conservation? It's like, what do we have to do here? Another reason it's an issue is for different reasons here. So facility location. So where are these wind farms located? Are they in the path of a bird migration? Are they in the area of a habitat for birds? When it comes to turbine placement, we're looking more so of how many are placed within this bird habitat, how many are placed within this bird migratory path. Thirdly, design. So there have been some tests of making wind turbines to look more like trees. And so they've I don't know if you guys know of the little roosters on the top of barns and how they kind of have these scooped edges. And so, I can't remember the name of it. I want to say barometer, but I don't think that's right. I don't know. But they had these scooped edges and it goes around and around and around. And so they created something kind of similar to that for wind turbines. And so they've got, the base like a tree, and then they've got the branches coming out, and then they've got those curved edges, so that's the propeller. And so their thoughts for this would be to create something that birds enjoy. And so they would, instead of flying right through them or kind of being completely unaware of the existence, that they would rather go and sit on them, and use that instead of being oblivious to their existence. And then lastly, bird movement. And so it's an issue because of, the bird movement across the landscapes. So to further explain that, there is mortality risks that may increase due to the locations and placements of these wind turbines. So more specifically, the bird movement within the areas. So birds soaring in flight are unable to maneuver well, unable to maneuver well, and they may be unable to avoid the turbine if they are soaring within the rotor swept zone. And so the rotor swept zone is basically just that circular path that these rotors are traveling in. Birds that move during the daytime, they usually fly at lower heights, and they may be at a higher risk for flying into those swept rotary zones than the birds that are flying at night. And then birds that fly at lower heights and congregate near summits and steep slopes, or this is, summits and steep slopes are where a lot of wind turbine farms are located. This increases the risk of collision for them because, they're searching for food and, they're just flying lower, which is normal for them. Additionally, there are 200 species of birds documented as killed in wind turbine collisions. So before it was the 140,000 to 328,000 birds killed every year, but this is 200 species of birds that are documented as killed. Most of these are passerines, so the songbirds, but following that is raptors. And so what I spoke about earlier, for raptors it's lower, but they are especially vulnerable because vulnerable to these collisions because of their flight behaviors. They're also more at risk because of their long lives. They live rather long lives, but they also have a very low reproductive rate. So what are potential solutions to this wind turbine versus bird situation? So turbine lighting is one thing. So I know we read about how pigeons use the sun as kind of like a GPS system for them. And so they see light. And so people are thinking that if we put lights on the top of turbines that, you can see in the bottom picture there, that it lights up pretty well. And so hopefully the birds that are coming through that area would see that light and avoid it. And additionally, there's also a possibility of real-time maps being a solution. And so if you look at this larger picture here, so the little green dots, there's more of those than the red ones, but there's the radar systems. And so I talked about before, the radar and GPS systems, those are what those are. And so there's active ones and inactive ones on the map here. The yellow line that you see across the west coast there is the sunrise. And so there was a little video when I was looking for something like this, and it kind of showed this white line and the red or yellow. So red and yellow changing when it's sunrise and sunset, and then the purple and blue migration traffic rate, was changing as well as the days passed and as the day passed, as the months changed and stuff like that. And then of course the little arrows, the orange arrows that you see there too, are the paths that the birds are migrating in. And so hopefully that these maps would actually help, and they were hoping that the farmers would use these to determine when they should stop their wind turbines, when the large numbers of birds fly through the area. And then lastly, proper siting. And so this is basically just making sure that these wind turbines are placed in an area that's not going to affect the migration of birds or, eliminate half of the migrating group. So my opinion is that proper siting might be our best option. When going against something that's super helpful, so like wind turbines, we know that they are creating clean energy and all that stuff. When you are going against that, so in this case, we should get rid of the wind turbines because it kills the birds. When you're going against something like that, there's going to be a lot of push and pull in different directions. And in order to avoid some of that, most of that, or maybe even all of it, the goal would be to not completely remove the wind turbines, or to something that's doing good, because that's just going to create a lot of upset. And so with that being said, any upcoming siting of wind turbine farms, I think they should be carefully considered. It's not just, this is a great open space with the steep slopes and all that stuff and just put it there. Like, I think it should really be considered about, is this where a bird group comes through and migrates? Is this, a habitat that birds have that this is going to affect? So there's actually a location in Canada called the Red Triangle, and it's actually an area of refuge and protection designed specifically for migratory birds. So the Prince Edward Island Energy Corporation, so the PEI Energy Corporation, is built right next to this Red Triangle. And it hopes to add 7 more turbines to the currently existing 10. And it's changed the layout of their farm. The PEI Energy Corporation has changed the layout of their farm to avoid the triangle. And it insists that it is taking steps to prevent issues in the future, or to reduce its environmental impact with, the placement of the upcoming 7. But there are concerns about whether or not that's actually going to happen and all that. And so with that being said, I think that this situation needs to have more research. There needs to be more research done about the current existing farms, because we can do what we can about the upcoming farms and say, we need to really consider this. But what do we do about the farms that already exist? You know, the lights aren't necessarily working, and the radar and GPS systems aren't necessarily working either. And so what are we going to do here? So an application of conservation. I think the biggest thing for us to do is to be aware of our surroundings, be aware of what's going on around you. Though that is a lot to ask, we are these tiny human beings in this gigantic planet Earth. And so asking every single one of us to sit down and research different conservation issues that occur all around the world, it's a lot. It's asking probably a bit too much. But what if we were provided with some basic information every so often, you know, given links and information that really interested us or might interest us? So what if there was like something like a conservation program online? What if there was a program that lists different issues, different conservation issues, and it was in the schedule? So there was videos on different topics every week, every other week. This would give people the chance to go in there and pull up this week's video and bird conservation, and maybe it's the recycling, you know, different things like that, and gives the viewer a little bit of a chance to learn about the basics and what the situation is and how they can help out. And if that topic happens to really interest somebody, maybe there's some links below that, you know, here's more, read more if you're interested in, you know, it's not like, this is all the information you're going to learn, but there's a little bit more if you're interested in it. And so what if we actually just go back to the beginning? Genesis 2:15, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and keep it. We're placed here to take care of God's creation, among other things, among other reasons that we were placed on this earth. The least that we can do in thanks for the life that we've been given, and the least that we can do is to take care of what we've been given as a home. When you're staying somewhere, disregard what your parents have always told you, you know, leave the place cleaner than when you arrived. Why should it be only when you leave? Keep it clean the entire time that you're there. It'll not only be less work to clean when you leave, but it'll also make it a happier place for you to live when you're there. And then my sources, and